Third gear is the lock and grind. Now, just as you wouldn't try pulling away from a stoplight in third gear, you won't normally apply the lock and grind without progressing through first and second gears. Neither would you remain in first or second gear on entering a high-speed freeway. So don't continue to push the arm, second gear, effectively over-revving the engine, when you should shift to lock and grind. Each gear has its purpose, place, and timing. And if you think of it like that, you'll flow easily through it. Once you have the lock and you begin to grind, what we call third gear, the lock itself is second gear. I want to cease pressure in second gear and let the lock do its job. Think about the difference between a jack and a jack stand. A jack is used to lift something up. You jack your car up. Then after you get it up, you put a jack stand under it. But the jack stand doesn't lift the vehicle, it simply holds the vehicle. So, I get his arm in this place, I don't over push it. I start applying the leg. If I don't get this done, I don't apply this. But what happens if he starts to resist, say, when I'm transferring his arm? That's another place that could be dangerous. So I grind, he steps back, I punch. I feed, he starts to resist. I'm going to hit him and rock through and just take his legs out this way, and if I really get tired of him, kiss it off, and you're done. That we call Kuntao Cuisinart. Just throw him into a blender. Think of weight shifting as moving his energy from one leg to the other, much like the slinky. This is what you want to do with your opponent's legs. You want to shift his weight from his lead to his rear leg. This seems counterintuitive. Clearly, taking out a leg with all its weight on it would be very effective. However, since a good portion of his weight is on it, he is also in a very good position to resist and counterattack. And this is the biggest key to effective leg work. First, lighten the leg you wish to attack. And this is done by shifting his weight back. What the punch and redirection do is they set it up for me to use my leg now to attack his leg. Without this pressure, if I just release it at all, I don't have this pressure here, Neil can attack me. This is because that's the biggest vulnerability in this drill, is he can do to me what I can do to him. However, shifting his weight back now denies him a base from which he can attack me. Go ahead and bend your knee. See, he's just sitting there struggling, and all I got to do is keep my balance here. So you absolutely must have this base. The pressure is important. But that now brings us to the second most important principle that you need to understand here to make this leg work, and that is the cone of balance. I can't recall from whom I first heard this, but it's not original with me. Actually, I'd be surprised if anything I've shown you today is original with me. But the cone of balance works like this. Visualize an inverted cone. The bottom is where the ice cream dribbles out of. That's the scientific term for it. If I push Neil in that direction, I can get him right to the edge of his cone of balance. I can do the same thing, taking him into this direction. He's right at the edge. I can do the same thing, pushing him back and forward. I didn't know you were that heavy. Back and forward. I'm going to apply this here as I work on Neil and I get him into the lock. If I apply too little, I don't have him out on the cone, he really can resist. I want to keep him on the edge of his cone, right where he still thinks he can resist. If I push him too far, now he's out, and I've got to run the gauntlet again, so to speak, to get this guy back into my basic behavior modification program. Keep the guy right on the cone of balance, and it's an inverted cone. I explained this to one person, and he said, oh, all this time I thought it was top down. Not that works in Australia. But for the rest of the world, you've got to be, Neil, on this edge, lined up. It's all right. Lined up. I keep him on his cone. Whether he's in that stance or he's in this stance, I push him right to the edge and not one bit further. A little something that helps keep your opponent near and more vulnerable is to do more than just lock his leg. What you want to do is pivot, trap it. Now I'm actually stepping on it. I'm pinning his foot in addition to trapping it. Now this is a subtle point that frankly not everyone can do, and not because once you're wearing a black belt your IQ drops 40 points. It's tricky to apply forward pressure while your foot is turned in. You're not going to be able to do it every time. You can get it in, you can make your pressure, but the further you turn your foot in, the more difficult it is to press forward. So it's going to be a balancing act. If you get it, it's icing on the cake. It's a plus for me. If you don't, it won't make a bad cake better. So much for the culinary skills portion of this tape. Again, rotate. That's good. That's better. Before we move on to Lanka 1C, let's look at an application. We call this potter's wheel. I'll give you one for 1A. Now let's give you one for 1B. So as Neil follows the punch, I'm going to strike, take him down. Follow it up. What made that possible was I move into this position. I'm in my Lanka 1 position. I have my shin oriented on him. All I need to do is one of two actions: roll, or just bend the knee and thrust. Basically coming up on the ball of the foot and thrusting, or roll. You're getting your arms and your legs working together. So it goes 1, 2, 3, buckle it. Take the leg with a Lanka. Follow it up, just give him something to enjoy. Now you're getting, again, arms and legs working together. With that, let's move now to Lanka 1C. This is my friend and fellow student Rick Guzman. We're going to do Lanka 1C back and forth. With Lanka 1C, we're back to shuffle and step. And you should see that as we walk through the drill. And as before, we're just going to walk the drill back and forth, and then we'll break it down after that. Rick? You'll line up on him as before. This is the Kun Tao Silat method, by the way. So you're going to see elements of Kun Tao with the blocking, and you're also going to see the angling and getting behind for position that you saw in the A version. So it combines A and B versions, the Silat, the Kun Tao. Now we have a Kun Tao Silat version here. I grind, he punches. Angling behind, punch, and then we continue on. You should be familiar with this pattern. It's the same one we've been using all along. We'll walk it again like we did in 1A and 1B. But this time we're going to angle behind as we did before, but not outside of his arm. We're going to stay inside of his arm. We're going to be moving toward my partner's back, but again, I'm going to stay on the inside of his arm. I'm going to use the striking Kun Tao method with this Silat leg work. Rick? I'll break it down for you as we go through. From the lock position, as I cue him and he steps back and punches, I step across over here and I fire my punch. Now I'm letting a little distance occur here so you can get a better visualization of the angle we're following. Then I'm going to feed it, line up as before, come in and lock. I cue him, he backs up and punches. Then I come in and I feed it. I can make an adjustment here and lock. I grind. This part is first gear. Pow! That rocks him back a bit. Feed it. That exposes the leg now. Line this up to go to second gear pressure. Press on him. Grind. That's third gear. And once more. Steps back. Lock left with a punch. Line it up. Cue on the leg. That's the basic drill. Let's do it one more time. Come on, Rick. Start down here. Just want to relax. It is just a drill. I want to flow through it, nice and smooth. I grind. Go ahead. Punch. Feed this, lining up. Grind. Punch. Feed this through, lining up. Got my hand here on his shoulder blade. Grind. Punch. Feed it through. Line it up. Grind. Feed it through. And line it up. Lanka 1C. Let's break it down some more. I call this the Kuntao Silat method because it combines Silat's angling behind positional evasion method with Kuntao striking method to set up the desired position. It's different than the 1B position in the initial block as well. As I press for 1B, here's what happens. He punches. I step here, make my shot. I'm stepping in front of him. I'm using that third law of motion, action and reaction, here's my action, here's my reaction, to move me over. But in 1C when I do that, I don't have an assist. I actually move in, Silat-like, to smother his arm, but I'm doing it with a block and a strike. So from here I grind, falling into it, make my shot. I do this falling in here because I have no action-reaction assist. The nice thing about this Lanka 1C motion is it actually takes me out of his line of fire. Remember in Lanka 1B, I stepped in front of him, directly into the rear hand's line of fire. Which raises an interesting point. I've received numerous emails from people asking, what's to keep your opponent from hitting you? Well, primarily two things, speed and aggression. Think about it. I'm not doing this slowly, I mean to hit the guy. The block left and block right movements not only protect me, they also chamber and accelerate my counter punch. If you do this and you find yourself getting whacked, either begin doing this faster or more aggressively, and discontinue visiting places where you're likely to get into a fight, which is pretty good advice anyway. Let's continue. Again, I grind, Rick punches. Angling behind, make my shot. I align this up, feed it so the arm slides right in front of him. I want to make sure that I get that 3-dot alignment. There's his fist, there's his foot, and then either my foot or his foot works fine. But I want this left shin on shin alignment. I grind slowly on my partner's shin. Now make sure that when you do the grind, you grind toward him, not away from him to the side. Toward him does much more damage. Again, I have greater leverage than if I apply sideways. Sideways, and he can bend his knee toward me with greater ease. So as much as possible, when I line this up, I want to have my knee aiming right at him. Slow grind, save his knee, get a lot of pressure on that leg that way. This is the basic drill, but you can add or subtract any number of elements to it. For fun, let's add a hacksaw to the ribs. As I grind and he pulls back, 1, 2, punch, then hack to the ribs. Now from this position my arm is low, so I feed his arm through, maintain my alignment as I move in. Now I still want to maintain the 3-dot alignment on this side here. This hack that we're doing isn't just added for fun. You may do it because when you step in and punch, he checks. Boom. Then I'm going to shoot here to feed it through to make my alignment. Or you may wish to begin with a hacksaw for whatever reason. A sufficiently taller person perhaps. Let's show you how you start this technique and you do it, or this drill rather. Do this drill with a taller person, starting with a hacksaw. This time we're going to omit the punch and we're just going to use the hacksaw. And to do that, I'm going to demonstrate with my friend Brian Tuttle here, and we call him Bubba for short. We're going to start in this position. I've got the lock. I'm going to do Lanka 1C. I grind, he steps back. 1, 2. Now, to keep him from grabbing me, I'm going to hit this elbow to hyperextend it. That'll cause him to bend it. Then I'm going to feed it through from beneath, come right in and lock, and you can drive him back all the way from that one. Once more. Got him in this position. I grind, he backs up. Go right to the hack. Hyperextend this, cause it to bend. Feed it down, line it up, press it in. That's using it just as the hacksaw for the first attack. You use this on anybody that's taller than you. This gets hard to reach. That becomes easier, lowers it down, then you can play. Last but not least, we'll use one of my favorite strikes for the really big fella in your face. I line up in here. I apply the hand to the right place, pressure on him. I then push in the grind. 1, 2, boom. Feed this through. Go in and do the lock. Now that's assisted to feed through because you hit him in the groin, his hands come down. This is really based off Key-Lop hands number 8 that was shown in reflex action, where you block left, hit the guy in the groin. I'm just making it a downward descending angle. Once more, left foot forward please. I line up, I cue, then feed this through, come in and lock. This works well on anyone taller than you or even your own height. It's not so good on shorter people. Here's an application that should tie a lot of these points together. Rick feeds me the punch. Remember I said in the introduction that a right punch from a right lead is primarily a training punch, like this. Also, I said that Lanka 1 is early game applicable. That is, you can use it in the early, the mid, or the late game. Just because it's a training position doesn't mean you never get into that position. It happens all the time. We've got Rick here lined up in the left lead, going to fire a Western style punch. As he punches, I come in and I hack, and that backs him right up. Let him have the elbow, swing this through, and lo and behold, I've got right shin on shin, Lanka 1, and it took place mid-game. So this right on right is still a very valid training position, training stance, training drill. In this Lanka, we've followed our one rule. Kept my shin oriented on my opponent's near leg. We've used the first of 2 stances, the open stance. We've used all 3 methods, silat, kuntao, and kuntao silat. We've maintained this 3-dot alignment. His arm is tucked tight to him, and I see 1, 2, 3 dots. I don't let him go leaning out over here. Now anchoring my elbow when I do this, like so, keeps me from pushing my partner out of his cone of balance and losing him. I don't want to do that. Bending my knees is an easy way to tilt that cone. Lanka 1 is used in the early, mid, and late game. It has high potential, 5 out of a possible 5. It has high risk. And lastly, don't forget this, these are drills. They are only drills. They are not self-defense techniques, but these are the building blocks to self-defense techniques. They build the reflexes, the skills, the conditioning necessary for use in combat. You've seen Lanka A, B, and C. It's time now to move on to Lanka 2. This is my friend and fellow student Ron Richardson. We're going to work Lanka 2A. We're going to go back and forth, do the drill a few times, and then we'll break it down for you after that. Ron? With Lanka 2, the window for opportunity for using this thing is early, mid, and late game. But like most of my techniques, I try to use them early, and this one works out really well early. The stance is open. The leg contact is my shin on his calf. I have right on left, so they're unlike leads. The risk factor here is a 1 out of possible 5, so it's very low. Combat potential, it's only moderate. It's a 3. Let's walk the pattern on the floor so that you can see the pattern and break it down from there. Lanka 2A uses a slightly different pattern. Now we're going to walk it